Okay, I'm here with Scott Guthrie. He's the Corporate Vice President of Windows Azure, and he's here to do the keynote for us this year. So I have a few questions for Scott. The first one is, we've seen great adoption of Windows Azure here in New Zealand. How is it going worldwide?
It's going really well. It's I think this past year in particular, we've seen a huge uptake in Windows Azure adoption, really worldwide. And lots and lots of big customers, and lots of new services and features coming out. And excited. In my keynote this morning, I had a chance to talk about several of the big New Zealand customers in particular that are already using Azure. One of them is the All Blacks, who are migrating their website as well as launching a new Windows 8 and Windows Phone app that are all backed using Windows Azure. The New Zealand Police are using it, a number of local governments, and a bunch of great startups in the area like Red Button, ISVs like Serco, and a variety of others. And so it's exciting to see kind of just the adoption worldwide, and then in particular in New Zealand, some of the great early movement that we're already seeing.
Great. And what are the most popular services that you see people using on Windows Azure at the moment?
Well, one of the nice things about Azure is we kind of ship a new feature about every 2 weeks. And so we've got now more than 20 services that are already in general availability, and many more in the preview stage. And what we generally see is just the explosion of usage across the services.
Right.
And most of our customers are now using 4 or 5 distinct services, which is great to see. And they really span the breadth of lots of different scenarios. We're seeing our infrastructure as a service and the ability to create virtual machines with Windows and Linux really taking off. That's been a huge adoption, and that's a feature that just shipped in April. So it's great to see all that movement in just a few months. We're seeing our websites feature being something that an awful lot of people are using. They really like the productivity it provides for standing up web presences. Our mobile backend capability with notification hubs and mobile services for building Windows 8 or iOS or Android apps are really taking off. And then just our core historical features, things like storage, things like our compute stack with platform as a service and cloud services, and our SQL databases continue to grow significantly month over month. So it's kind of exciting to see, because it's not just one thing, it's really the breadth and expanse across the platform.
Great. And how have the news of the Australian data centers landed with local customers?
Very well. I mean, for people that don't know, we're rapidly expanding Windows Azure to kind of run worldwide. We've already had an Asian presence in the past, and one of the things that we announced a few months ago was expansion of several new areas in the Asian Pacific region, including, we already had ones in Hong Kong and Singapore, but we're adding 2 new data centers, or 2 new regions inside mainland China, 2 new regions inside Japan, and then 2 new regions inside Australia, one in the Victoria and one in the New South Wales locations. And so the beauty about that is it means that a developer or a company that builds their applications can basically choose from any of those regions. And the way they build their apps, the way they deploy their apps works identically in all of them, and all the features are consistent across them all. And so it really gives you a lot of flexibility to take your solutions worldwide, closer to your customers or closer to your global enterprise presence, and also gives you a lot of comfort from a disaster recovery perspective, because you know that you basically have options to run your apps across the world, and you don't have to worry about a natural disaster, whether it's an earthquake or flooding or a fire or tsunami or something like that, impacting your operations.
Is that why we have the two locations in Australia and usually 2 locations everywhere?
Yeah, what we try to do is for each of our geopolitical or geographies, we try to make sure we have 2 regions that are at least 500 miles apart.
Right.
And we do that, again, mostly for natural disaster reasons, as well as to make sure we have good coverage. So if you want to target, say in Australia, the Sydney market, you can deploy in the New South Wales region. And if you want to reach more the Melbourne market, you could deploy in Victoria. And obviously from both of those, you could reach the New Zealand market as well. But having the 2 regions gives you the flexibility where, as a company, it means that that you have 2, say from New Zealand, you have 2 locations that you could deploy your apps to, and again, have resiliency from a variety of different natural disasters. Within each region, we also then have multiple data centers. And so we also kind of have what we kind of think of as infinite capacity within those regions. Right. Again, it gives you a lot of flexibility where you want to deploy your apps, a lot of reassurance that in the event of emergency, there is another location nearby that you can run your apps. Gives you a chance to really build great solutions and run your business on them.
Great. So while here in New Zealand, you had a lot of meetings with customers and partners. What is your impression of the whole of New Zealand IT industry? It's
been great. I mean, I think one of the things that New Zealand is known for, and you certainly feel it when you come and talk to folks in the ISV and IT industry, is it's just really great technology and really great technologists. And I've had a chance this week to meet with many different ISVs and many companies in a lot of different industries. The things that are getting done here and the level of innovation is super high, and it's really exciting to see. And I think one of the real opportunities that the cloud gives, because it's worldwide, is this opportunity, I think, going to be for New Zealand companies as well as New Zealand tech companies to really reach worldwide, enter new markets, and really compete on a global scale even more effectively than before. Basically take advantage of the cloud as an infrastructure platform that really lets them reach the world.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me.